All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna share my screen and we're gonna start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I can stop sharing my screen. Okay, great. Welcome, everyone. My name is Sydney Jackson. I'm the president of the Creve Coeur Township Democratic Club. We meet jointly with the Maryland Heights Democratic Township Club. My esteemed co-president of the Maryland Heights Township Club, Harvey Ferdman, is unfortunately under the weather, and so he could not join us this evening, but he sends his regards. Um, we have a pretty great program, I think, tonight with some candidates from the April ballot and also the August ballot. And so before we get into that program, I'm gonna any of our elected officials or candidates who are not officially on the program tonight, if you want to come off of mute and introduce yourselves.
Good evening, everyone. I am Councilwoman Nicole Greer from the city of Creve Coeur and also a candidate for House District 71, which is Creve Coeur and a little bit of unincorporated St. Louis County. Glad to be here tonight. Oh, and I'm also the committee woman for the Creve Coeur Democratic Township Club.
Hard to compete with that. Hi, everybody. I'm State Senator Tracy McCreary. I represent the 24th Senatorial District in St. Louis County. The legislature is on their legislative midway break, but I'm really excited to join all of you tonight to get to know the candidates a little bit better. Thanks for having me.
Hi, I'm Gretchen Bangert on the St. Louis County Council in the Second District, and glad to be here with everybody tonight and hear all the great things we're going to learn about. Thanks.
Hi,
Hi, go ahead.
I'm Robert Snidman. I'm on the Ladue School Board. I've been on the school board for about a year. I taught government for 24 years, so I'd be negligent if I weren't here to hear what the candidates have to say.
Hi, I'm Mary Sharon Case of the City of Northwoods, and I'm here to get an understanding of what's going on and listen to the candidates. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Ella Jones, Mayor of the City of Ferguson, Committeewoman for the Ferguson Township, and candidate for St. Louis County Council District 1, number 3 on the ballot.
Awesome. I don't know if I see any others. Are there any other candidates or elected officials that aren't on our program? Oh yeah, Drew.
Hi, Drew Newman, council member, Ward 3, Creve Coeur. I am running for reelection, but I'm running unopposed. So I'm just here to listen tonight.
Awesome. Any other candidates or elected officials? Great. Well, with that, we'll go ahead and jump right into it. I believe I saw Patrick. Yes, I see Patrick. So we'll go ahead and start with Patrick since he is on the April ballot. So Patrick is running for the St. Louis Community College Board of Trustees. And you'll have to remind us of the district number because I live in that district, but I cannot remember the district number right now. So I'm gonna kick it over to Patrick.
Sydney, thank you so much. That was a great segue. I know that I'm already meeting with politically active people. Since you guys are showing up to your local Dem meeting, I am personally a member of the Tesson Ferry Township Democrats. I am a Democrat myself, but this race is nonpartisan. Most people don't know about the St. Louis Community College Board of Trustees. One, I'm in Subdistrict 4, which is basically a congressional district. It goes from where I live in Oakville in South County all the way out past Six Flags and Pacific. It goes to Lawndale, Missouri. It goes There's a tiny part of Washington County. It goes to Union, Missouri. I mean, it is a huge sub-district. Now, some of you who are in Pattonville and Ladue, that is a different sub-district, but I cover all of Parkway, all of Lindbergh, all of Melville, all of Valley Park, all of Rockwood, and all of Merrimack Valley. Um, I'm here to talk to you today about why you guys should care about this election. I'll try to be brief because I don't know how long candidates typically have to speak, and I know I can be long-winded at times. But my name is Patrick McKelvey. I have spent the last 3 years as the executive director of the Gateway Food Pantry. We are in Arnold. We are the largest food distribution center in Jefferson County, and we also cover 3 zip codes in South St. Louis County, a little bit of where Tracy McCreary is in that Fenton area, as well as 2 zip codes in Oakville, which is unincorporated St. Louis County. Um, Prior to that role, I worked for community colleges, which is why I'm running for this. I've spent the last 5 years on the Melville School Board, which has helped me from a governance perspective, but my wheelhouse really is in higher education. I worked in student support, so I helped at-risk students in East St. Louis, Cahokia, and Granite City graduate with their degrees at Southwestern Illinois College, which serves Belleville, Granite City, down as far south to Redbud. And then I transitioned to Jefferson College, which is the community college district that serves Jefferson County, where I also worked in student support and also as an instructor. I have roughly 8 years of experience in higher education. I'm running for this position because I know how important it is, and I hope you guys will take the time to vote on April 7th. As many of you know, um, there are not a lot of elections on this April ballot. There's no real tax levy increase from like MSD. Most fire departments and most school boards do not have elections, such as in Parkway and Rockwood. It should be a pretty quiet election cycle, which is why I need all of you guys to hopefully get out and vote for me. Um, it's important because there are 2 things happening in America with this affordability crisis. What I was told when I was growing up is the way to get a good job is to go into the trades or go to college. I'll talk about the trades first. Unions used to have much higher membership than what they do now, and that really allowed for them to be a conduit of workforce development. Unions were so important because they would have a ton of apprenticeship programs. When union membership went down, that made it to where less dues, less money being invested in that, and community colleges really started to take over that role. So now STLCC is one of the largest partners of unions in our area in getting students into the trades, whether that's the Boeing machinist program that the college hosted, whether that's HVAC, diesel tech, all of those great things. The only career path I would say in America right now that we have a greater need than in the trades is in healthcare. Right now, STLCC is the largest educator of respiratory therapists, dental hygienists, and registered nurses. STLCC is graduating over 400 registered nurses a year. That's very important because STLCC is also the only place where you can become an RN in Missouri for less than $30,000. That is also true of the other community colleges, right? But we know you can't go to UMSL, SLU, WashU, or Mizzou for that price point, right? So we have this huge workforce need in our area, whether that's the trades or healthcare. And we know that you can do it for a subsidized rate at St. Louis Community College. Um, because of the past leadership, I am not running against incumbent. I have no major gripes against STLCC. They're doing incredible and meaningful work. I am hoping that they can continue to expand their workforce development programs, especially in healthcare. They went from about 200 to 400, and I hope, since St. Louis has so much clinical space, that we can get over 500 registered nurses a year. And that, of course, just it keeps increasing investment in our community college system. There's a great new center going up in Wildwood. There's, of course, the Forest Park campus. I want to help the incredible things go. The second thing is, I was always told don't go to college. There's a lot of debt involved in that. But I wanted to be an educator, and educators have to go to college. I didn't have a choice. So for a lot of students, this means knocking out requirements for their first 2 years for free with the A plus program, and I want to continue to provide for those students. Um, STLCC is so very, very important to our community, and I know many of you do not. Um, hear about it all that much. I know I always tell people, I went to Mizzou, I live and breathe it. I'm wearing a shirt right now. Most STLCC grads are not like that. It serves a lot of non-traditional students, or it serves a lot of dual credit students who will move on somewhere else after that, right? But this is a very, very, very important election. And like I said, it's a congressional district and it's a Senate term. This is a seat that comes up once every 6 years, and I hope I am able to earn your vote. This is going to be a very low turnout. Please do not turn your attention to that August primary. And I know there's going to be a big blue wave in the midterms, but I hope you guys take the time to vote on April 7th for me. My name is Patrick McKelvey. I'm in Sub District 4, and I hope you guys take the time to vote. That was long-winded, but I hope I got through everything. I apologize.
Well, thank you so much. Are there any questions for Patrick?
All right, that means I did a really good
Yes,
job
I
or
have
really good. Go ahead.
yep, you did a good job, and I got a question. So I'm
What's going on?
wondering, uh, what percentage of community college budget comes from the state, and also considering the current socio-political climate, to what extent is funding for community college in St. Louis at risk?
So Tracy's going to be a lot better at this. My current state senator is Doug Beck, and I know Tracy and Doug do an incredible job at this. Right now, I know there's a lot of discussion about the cutting of the taxes and moving to more of a sales tax number. I know the number for the Melville School District is 4 million, and I can also tell you right now that STLCC receives the highest share of state funding as far as community colleges go. Um, I focused a lot of my advocacy efforts on K through 12 education, seeing that I'm not on this board of trustees yet, but now there's a lot of moving parts here. I was told that the cuts state system wide for community colleges was going to be about a 10% cut in funding. However, I do want to say that STLCC is on much firmer footing than other community colleges in state, not only because it's just such a huge area, it has a great tax base. They passed a tax levy in 2021 to try to future-proof the college for this, and it passed. So we none of us can predict the future and what the knuckleheads in the state legislature are going to do. Obviously not directed at Tracy. We have a Republican supermajority and governor that are hell bent on cutting education funding, but they should be fine. There is money. They have been trying to future proof the college for this for over 5 years. Now, a 10% cut is drastic, but it is mostly locally funded. You're going to see a decrease in the efforts that they can do for education funding and workforce development. I mean, healthcare education funding, but I don't want to say this. There should not be a reason in the next 6 years that STLCC goes for a tax levy. Of course, I would be one of seven making that decision, but they are on pretty firm financial footing right now. Um, and unfortunately, we all know this. The playbook when college funding is cut is you offset that cost by increasing tuition. That is unlike you can't do that in K-12, obviously. I would honestly assume that any budget offsets would be transferred to the student in the form of probably a $15 to $20 per credit hour cost increase. That was a really long answer. I apologize.
No, it was insightful, and I would look forward to those types of awareness points, whether you get into office or not, ensuring that the general public gets as close to knowing that information in the different ways it impacts our community as possible, because we see how crazy things are, and the more that education is cut, the more that we will see poverty, violence, etc. increase. So appreciate your awareness to those points, and I definitely would like to see efforts of the general public, being oriented to how those things impact their daily lived experiences. Appreciate you for running.
Amen. And I think STLCC is so important for that because it serves non-traditional students first and foremost. It's very important, right? It
Exactly.
really addresses those things. And it's in the communities. It's in Flo Valley. It's in Wildwood. It's where I'm at in Oakville. It's in Kirkwood. It's such an incredible system that we have. So thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions? All right, seeing none. Thank you so much, Patrick. I do want to emphasize that I know April elections are not the sexiest. However, we've heard from Patrick about why the St. Louis Community College Board of Trustees is so important. That's a contested race. I know that, Creve Coeur City Council, Parkway School Board, they might, be uncontested races this year, but we do have Ladue School Board does have a contested race. And there's also a proposition for the Creve Coeur Fire Protection District. So it is important to look up your sample ballot, make sure you know what you're going into, and make sure you cast your vote by April 7th so you can start casting your votes on March 24th. I do have a statement from one municipal candidate who could not make it this evening, but wanted to still share a little bit about herself with you all. So I'm gonna read her statement. It's from Mary Monticello from the Chesterfield City Council. So she says, "Hello, my name is Mary Monticello, Ward 1, Chesterfield council member for the past 7 years. Chesterfield City Council is nonpartisan. I'm asking for your vote on Tuesday, April 7th, because I believe I am the candidate to help move our city into the future. I have written endorsements. I have written endorsements from Mayor Dan Hurt, Ward 1 Council Member Barb McGinnis, and Dr. Keith Mankowitz, former president of, I'm so sorry, I'm going to butcher this, Faris Israel Chevra Kadisha Congregation Synagogue on Ladue Road. I am committed to Chesterfield and have no political ambitions. My priorities are neighborhoods, parks, and green space. I voted to provide our police officers with the latest technology to keep us safe and supported electronic sign standards so that Olive Boulevard does not become another Manchester Road. I also approved the land lease of $1 per year with Logan University, creating Logan Park for Chesterfield, and advocated for the purchase of 8 open acres in Central Park. I understand finances and how the TIF benefits the city and residents, not developers. My background as a retired mathematics professor helps me to think logically. Since we have no Chesterfield property tax, I strongly favor finding alternative sources of funding for projects whenever possible. I believe in quality development for all city projects, large or small. I've been involved in the creation of downtown Chesterfield and want to continue as a council member to assure things develop as planned. My opponent knows nothing on this topic or many other important issues. My email is mbmonticello@outlook.com. Please feel free to contact me. I hope to have your support on April 7th, Mary. And I will put her email address in the chat in case anyone has any questions and wants to reach out to her regarding her campaign. But now I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to our 2 August candidates that we have with us this evening. Actually, before I do that, I saw a couple more electeds pop in. So if you want to come off of mute and introduce yourself, I saw 2 committee people and then Representative Applebaum. So if they want to introduce themselves really quick before we get into that, that would be great.
Hi, everybody. It's LaDonna Applebaum. I got here late. My apologies. I'm on dog duty, so you know how that goes. Anyway, it's nice to see everybody. It's good to be on spring break and get a little downtime. But we have got to go, excuse my term, but balls to the walls for all of the elections, whether it's April, in August, or in November. So anyway, glad to be here. If anyone has any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'm just gonna mute myself.
Awesome. And then Gavin or Dennis, did you all want to introduce yourselves?
Well, I wasn't planning to, but hello, I'm Gavin. I represent the Jefferson Township over here in Webster Groves, Webster Groves, Glendale area. Just hopping on to hear from our local candidates as we prepare to barrel into this election season.
Awesome. And Dennis, you don't have to. I'm not going to force you to if you don't want to.
Oh, no, I have no problem. I'm the Wild Horse Committee man, and which is West St. Louis County. And I just saw that this discussion between the two prosecuting attorneys were on your agenda, so I thought I wanted to tune in and hear what they had to say. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for joining us. All right, so we're gonna get into the what everybody is here for. We have both Milissa Price Smith, who is the current St. Louis County prosecuting attorney, here with us, as well as David Bryant, who is a candidate for St. Louis County prosecuting attorney. So I'm gonna go ahead and go in ballot order. Each candidate is gonna have about 10 minutes to give us their spiel. And then after each candidate, we'll do a section for questions. So you can ask, that specific candidate, questions, but we're not going to frame this as like a debate or anything of that sort. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Milissa.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. Creve Coeur in Maryland Heights Dems. I am a Democrat. I grew up in Creve Coeur and I went to high school in Maryland Heights. So nice to be home. A little bit about me. I have been in the prosecutor's office for 18 years. I have handled about every type of crime there is, from low level to high level. The last 15 years, I have specialized in sexual assault and child abuse. The honor of my life to work with some of the bravest people that I've ever met, and that being the victims. I feel very strongly about victim crimes and of victims knowing that their voice truly matters and the power of their voice. And once a victim discloses, they are no longer anyone's victim. About a year and a half ago, I was working for Wesley Bell, and when we found out he was going on to Congress, I was appointed by the governor to finish his term. I have to say it's one of the honors of my life. I love St. Louis County and I love this office. And this past year, we have been extremely busy. One of the first things we did was we reinstated a violent crime unit. And the importance of that is now when those type of crimes, violent crimes, are brought in, whether it be a murder or assault first, those cases are reviewed in real time. One of the goals of our office is to get violent offenders off the streets. So when those cases are reviewed in real time, we look at pending cases, prior cases, and we are able to make a charging decision and a bond decision with the judge immediately. We also started, within a month of me taking office, we started a homicide unit. I always hate to share this with people, but I believe in being transparent. Currently, St. Louis County has 270 pending homicide cases. We have a lot of specialized units. However, we did not have a homicide unit. So I recruited 3 people from the U.S. Attorney's Office. People I recruited were all veteran prosecutors who had worked in our office some 5 years ago, some 20 years ago. But we recruited them to our office to lead both our trial team and our homicide unit, because those are the most serious cases. We need those attorneys in that unit dedicated to keeping St. Louis County safe. As I mentioned, I was on the sexual assault child abuse team. We have expanded that team. It's now called Special Victims Unit, because under that umbrella, we also have elder abuse. Our elder abuse cases are so very important, and they need the attention of a specialized unit. Now they have it. We also have a domestic violence unit that we placed under a new supervisor. Senator McCreary's on here, and she and I both feel very passionately about domestic violence as well as child abuse, and work together, working to prevent those kinds of crimes and to bring awareness. Our domestic violence unit is very important. Not only are those attorneys trained in the legal part, which, as we all know, is very, very important, but in spite of the fact that that team has the most number of cases, they also have the most number of victims that change their mind about a month into the process. And unfortunately, it's not because the incident didn't happen. It's because of what we call the cycle of violence. So our attorneys in the domestic violence team are trained not only in the legal aspect, but the emotional part of this type of crime. Another thing I created was a hospital violence unit. I have learned, about 2 years ago, I got a new case of a nurse who was working in the emergency department at DePaul, and she was stabbed in the neck while she was working. One of the things that she did while her case was pending was to teach me that healthcare workers, in particular nurses, they undergo violence on a regular basis. In fact, 45% of nurses report being assaulted in the emergency department. So we have created a hospital violence unit. We need our healthcare workers who take care of us to know that we will take care of them and those offenders will be held accountable. I also want you to know about our treatment courts and our diversion. I feel very, very strongly about them. What I mean when I say treatment courts, for those of you who don't know, we have DWI court, we have drug court, mental health court, and veterans court. It is for our low-level nonviolent offenders who've made a mistake because of an addiction or because of a mental health issue. I believe in being transparent, and I'm going to tell you all, I had a brother who was a heroin addict. He spent a lot of time in jail. I truly believe that if 40 years ago we had treatment courts, I believe he'd still be alive today. Not only do I believe in treatment courts and diversion, we have doubled the amount of attorneys we have working in those courts because we believe that every case is different, every person's an individual, and every person has a background that is important. So we treat every case that way. And if there's a mental illness or an addiction, we address it. I also want you to know I feel very strongly about community outreach. We have increased that 100%. When I was working in sexual assault, I'll be honest, I kind of worked in a vacuum. I worked on just those cases. However, now that I'm in this role, I've had an opportunity to step back, and I believe the prosecutor's office can be a part of the whole picture of the solution. So now we are in community groups every night, we're in neighborhood watch every night, and we are in high schools from Parkway to Rockwood to Riverview to Normandy. We're going to be at Rittner next week, and we have some real conversations with those kids. We talk about how many of you are 18, how many of you are under, and they ask some great questions. We talk about real examples of cases. We talk about how important your friends are. Show me who your friends are, and I'll show you what your future is. We talk about mistakes, we talk about risks, and it's a great, great conversation. I want you all to know, I grew up in St. Louis County. I raised my kids in St. Louis County. I want my kids to want to stay in St. Louis County. But there's only one way that's going to happen, and that's if we have a safer St. Louis County. I'm also very aware that the criminals who commit the crimes in the city are the same ones who commit the crimes in the county. They don't see this, invisible line and stop at the border. I work very closely with Gabe Gore. We talk about policies, we talk about teams, we talk about how to work together. I promise you, we have been working so hard every day to make St. Louis County safer. And I will not let you down. I want the opportunity to continue doing this work. I have an incredible team of attorneys. And I'll tell you, when we do the hiring, not only of the veteran prosecutors, but new prosecutors, we're very careful about who we hire. We want people who have the right heart for keeping St. Louis County safe, but also for knowing why they're doing this, to be a part of the bigger picture, helping defendants make better choices and to give victims a voice. When we get out in the community, I can assure you that we reach out to people and we are building trust in every community. But the other thing we're doing is reaching victims. I'm very aware that there are a lot of victims out there who I can come up, in front of crowds and say, disclosure leads to healing, your voice matters. A lot of victims are repeat victims and they don't have anyone to disclose to. So every time we are out in the community, even a high school, about 70% of the time we will have a victim who comes forward and discloses, because that's where the power is when someone uses their voice. I want to thank you all so much for giving me this opportunity the past year. I will not let you down. I hope to continue doing this work. The primary is in August, and I hope that you get out and vote. Thank you so much, and I'm happy to take any questions.
All right. If anyone has any questions, feel free to come off of mute and ask your question, or you can throw it in the chat and I'd be happy to read it out.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm attorney Lynn Chambers, a licensed attorney in the state of Missouri and Illinois. My question is, I know in Missouri, the diversity, equity, and inclusion might be a dirty word, but hypothetically, we as Democrats are still holding up the bloodstained banner. So my question would be to you, madam, how does your office do that, and what is your ratio in terms of Black attorneys to white attorneys to Latino attorneys? What's the racial composition of your staff?
Hi, thank you so much, Attorney Lynn Chambers, Team David. Thank you for coming on. Our Ratio, do we have more white attorneys than black attorneys? Yes, we do. I will tell you, we have some incredible black attorneys, but the last 6 months, we have had absolutely no attorneys of color apply. We have about 10 interns coming on who are of color. I believe very strongly about DEI. I truly do. And we interview anyone and everyone who applies. I wish we had more attorneys of color who would apply, but we haven't had a lot. We have some incredible black attorneys, some incredible white attorneys, Hispanic attorneys, but I do believe in DEI. As a Democrat, I think I agree with you 100% in that respect.
So as a follow-up, what specifically have you done to recruit and retain attorneys of diverse backgrounds?
Well, we do the same thing to retain attorneys of diverse backgrounds as we do to retain all attorneys. We try to make a positive workspace where everyone's voice matters. We do what's called on-campus interviews at law schools around the region. We invite interns from, well, not only do we invite law school interns, we also invite undergrad interns. We have a group of about 10 law school interns that will be starting in May and about 10 undergrad interns that will be starting in May. So we invite anyone and everyone to interview and to be a part of our office. But we always are encouraging and trying to make our office a positive workspace for everyone who works there.
And I appreciate and respect that. My final question though, so you indicated, I think your exact words were, I wish we had more people that applied. And then you walked us through the process of recruitment. So whatever is going on probably isn't getting you the results that you had hoped for. Would you agree with that statement?
No, we have a lot of wonderful people who apply. I answered that question when you asked about the DEI and the ratio, and I said we have not had any people of color apply in the last several months, unfortunately.
Right. So I think we're kind of saying the same things. What I think what I'm alluding to is you talked about your recruitment plan and your retention plan, which is to make it a great workspace, which is nice. Because you guys do tough work, and I get that, and I appreciate and respect that. But my specific question is, whatever you're doing, if you're not getting enough applicants, maybe I would just suggest something in your system might need course correction.
Well, I appreciate that suggestion. I know Wesley Bell, my predecessor and boss for 5 years, also experienced the exact same issue. So I think that's a really great suggestion. I appreciate it.
All right, it looks like we've gotten a couple more questions in the chat. What percentage recidivism among defendants do you have in treatment courts, especially with younger defendants, and do the treatment programs work?
Well, the treatment programs, first of all, they're not easy programs. In terms of someone can't just phone it in. They have to actually go through the treatment. And once they do go through the treatment, they can change the whole trajectory of their lives and avoid a conviction. So in terms of the recidivism, right now, the treatment courts, let me look at my note right here, are about 26% in terms of how many become repeat offenders. It's an excellent treatment programs, all of them, the drug, the DWI, the veterans, and the mental health courts. So we're very proud of it. And like I said, we've doubled the amount of our attorneys that participate in these courts.
Awesome. And then the next question that it looks like Gavin also wants to ask of our next candidate too, but an idea that gets floated every so often is that St. Louis County elections and of course justice should be nonpartisan. Would you support or see value in county prosecutor elections being nonpartisan like our municipal elections?
Yes. I am a prosecutor. I am not a politician. I am proud to say I'm a Democrat and always have been. But I do not think a prosecutor should be a political role. Yes, I agree with that. Thank you for that question.
All right. Any other questions? This is usually a pretty chatty group. All right. Well, if not, I'm gonna go ahead and move on. But if you would like to drop your contact information, email address, website, things like that, where people can go learn more or reach out if they have questions, that would be great. Um, but yes, thank you so much for your time. I'm
Hi
so
to the
sorry.
little cutie. Hi. Thank you, Sydney.
Yeah, of
Thanks,
course.
everybody.
Yeah. All right, so our next candidate is David Bryant, who is also a candidate for St. Louis County Prosecutor. David, I'm going to give you your 10 minutes to do your spiel and then feel free to take some questions afterwards.
Okay, sure. Good afternoon, everyone. I am David Bryant, and I am running to be the St. Louis County Prosecutor, and I'm running to bring change to St. Louis County. Change that will again give voice to the Democratic voters' perspective that was fought so hard for in Ferguson 2014. The 2014 catastrophe was a catastrophe for our community, and we all saw what happened when a career prosecutor lost sensitivity to the people they govern. It embarrassed us on the world stage. After 2014, our Republican conservative governor, uh, rejecting the Democratic pick, and appointed the person that's there now. And I don't mean and the changes were made. Um, but I want to go back and continue to drive the changes that were put forward before that change. At that time, we need a higher focus again on the alternative programs and the pretrial diversion program. My understanding is the pretrial diversion program, and that's different from pretrial courts. I believe the pretrial court, the programs that was established by the courts is there, but the pretrial program that was established by the previous prosecutor has been completely deprioritized and almost removed. Um, in that the pretrial diversion program is proven to reduce recidivism. It addresses the underlying causes, and that's what's important to those kinds of programs. There needs to, again, be a clear focus on police accountability. The Conviction Integrity Unit was created at that time to address police accountability. Bond agreements, again, need to be aggressively constructed for qualifying offenders to address the cost of rising jail population and the court gridlock. Look, I've been a trial lawyer in the courts for almost 25 years. We've all practiced in the court, but I've actually tried the jury trials. I've been a member of this community for much longer than that. I've been a prosecutor, a defense attorney, and a judicial officer. I've been a public defender, which has centered me the most on fairness. I've seen the inside of our courtroom from almost every angle from the inside. I've seen what happens when our justice system is driven by punishment alone instead of integrity, with indifference toward people it works for instead of concern for the fairness. I've seen the tunnel vision, and tunnel vision is the most dangerous weapon a prosecutor can employ, as we have seen. Tunnel vision has made prosecuting in our community about conviction and indifference instead of truth. At the end of the day, this is a trial office. It's not a business office. And the point of the office is not about cutting deals. So I'm running on my trial experience. The office sees some of the worst people in our society, people that prey on children. And everyone just can't cut a deal. Everyone cannot have a plea deal. Therefore, you have to have the experience in trial to hold people accountable. It's okay to try and have someone else come in to train the attorneys, but you really have to be able to know what's going on in that courtroom from experience and know what trial issues are. I've tried almost 100 jury trials. I've tried cases in numerous jurisdictions across Missouri, including federal court. I, I've tried cases from marijuana to murder, and I've been a successful trial lawyer, and my work has been recognized. I understand the tensions in almost every case because I've tried them all, and I could tell you a defense of a case from the moment it's charged and beat the defense to the point. But my work as a public defender, like I said, has centered me the most, and it has eliminated the possibility of tunnel vision that career prosecutors can have. And we've seen the effects already of career prosecutors. It removes the sensitivity to the community that you govern. So most importantly, trial work is what's going to keep the community safe. So those experiences have taught me public safety and fairness are not competing interests. They are inseparable, and we must do both. I'm running to bring steady leadership, practical reform, and real accountability to the victims and defendants and taxpayers. As prosecutor, my first priority will always be to protect our community and support victims of crime. Victims deserve to be heard and respected and treated with dignity throughout the process. The system must never lose sight of the harm that crime causes, and the importance of victims should not depend on how much money a defendant can afford to spend on a defense attorney and what connections they have. Secondly, my priority will be fairness. No more of these cookie cutter based policies designed to disproportionately target certain communities and demographics. It's every person, every case, every time. Overcrowded jails and repeat offenders are signs of, not signs of strength in the prosecutor's office, they're signs that a system is stuck in reaction mode. And if all we do is lock up, the math is going to eventually fail us. We cannot incarcerate our way to a crime-free society. So as prosecutor, I'm going to set forth policies that would actually move St. Louis County forward. Every person will be afforded full consideration of their facts. Each case will be reviewed for charging decisions and be fair, proportionate to the crime charged. Every person, every case, every time. Finally, I'm running because St. Louis County has to have transparency, honesty, and integrity from the prosecutor's office. Look, in closing, I have my accomplishments in jury trials. I've been recognized as a successful trial lawyer. I've been requested to train trial lawyers. I didn't have to bring in others to train them for me. And I didn't actually need any more trials. I was actually moving away from trial work. I think I had seen it all. But I'm tied to the success of St. Louis County. My sons are here. My family is here. And I watched the work of when all the work of Ferguson that we fought for start to get undone. And knowing that I have the trial experience, I said, St. Louis County just cannot fumble right now. My sons are here. And so I asked myself, if not me, then who? If not now, then when? And I jumped in the fight. I jumped in the fight to make St. Louis County better. And I want to thank you guys for having the attention and the consideration.
All right, thank you so much. If anybody has any questions, feel free to come off mute or throw your questions in the chat. While
Yeah.
everybody's thinking and turning their wheels. Oh, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. So appreciate hearing from you both, David and Milissa. I have a point of, I guess, an inquiry of clarification that I would like to hear. I think it's fair that we as community members understand what's actually happening now in the office, as well as what you all are planning to do should you get elected for the permanent position. So, David, you mentioned, and I'm going to butcher it, right? I don't practice law, but you both mentioned the presence of some sort of treatment court or treatment plans. I feel like David, you made some distinguishing points of what existed prior to the incumbent, what has become undone since the incumbent has taken the seat, and also what she may have done to implement since she's been there. So can you clarify that? And then if you are actually saying that things that are beneficial to our community have been undone by Milissa, then Milissa, I would like to hear about the rationale for the infrastructure that you are facilitating and managing in your current occupation of that office.
So there's a difference between treatment courts set up by the court and diversion alternative courts set up with the courts and diversion programs that are set up within the prosecutor's office. In my understanding, the previous prosecutor had set up diversion programs that were not part of the courts. And that is a program where they could take a look at offenders and before charging them, maybe partner with a community program and if the person successfully completed the programs as required, then there would be no charges needed. My understanding is that program has been totally gutted. And now there are still court treatment diversion programs, but the internal program from the prosecutor's office has been basically deprioritized. And that's important because those are what's really important to St. Louis County is not just conviction and incarceration. That's antiquated, and that's a tool that we've always used. And again, you can't just incarcerate yourself to a crime-free society. We have to do something in modern society and address reducing the crime. And so what happens on these low-level offenders if you just go for conviction? What's going to happen? They're going to get right back out with the conviction and probably in worse than before, and right back into the community worse than before with a lower ability to get jobs. So the diversion programs are definitely important to recidivism because it helps a person stay on track, become a law-abiding citizen with a greater ability to get a job. And that's really what's important to us. Also, what I understand is the conviction integrity program has been deprioritized. Unit. That was an entire unit set up by the previous prosecutor that would look at cases and make sure that the convictions were fit. And if there was something wrong with it, they had the ability to look at it and revisit it. And that's been deprioritized. And we know how important police accountability has been to our community. So those are two things that I would definitely go back and relook at and reimpose.
I have a follow-up question, Attorney Bryant, as well as for, I'm sorry, ma'am, what was your name? I missed her name. I joined a little late. Our first speaker, the incumbent prosecutor.
Melissa,
So this question is
Melissa,
Miss Melissa.
Melissa
Thank
Price.
you.
Thank you. And
Thank
let me
you.
know if
Thank you.
I can answer that question that gentleman just asked of me and Mr. Bryant.
Oh, yes. Okay.
You,
Thank you. And then I have a follow-up. I'd like to talk to you more
Okay.
about the integrity of the wrongful conviction unit.
Okay. Can I answer that question first that was just answered?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, Attorney Chambers. In terms of the conviction integrity review unit, that unit is up and running. It is a walled off unit. It is a very strong unit. We believe in holding police accountable. We believe in having the best police we possibly can. Any case that involves any type of officer action or misconduct is specialized. But in terms of our conviction integrity review unit, I'm really glad you brought that up, Mr. Bryant, because I was talking about so many other things. I didn't get the opportunity. That unit is up and running. It is a specialized unit and it is walled off from everything else in the office in case anyone else has a case that pertains to those cases in the past. So thank you. Yes, it's a very strong unit in our office. Mr. Bryant, you also had pointed out, and this is an answer to the previous gentleman's question about our diversion program, which is also up and running. And it was also said that our office did not prioritize the pretrial diversion. Not only do we prioritize it, I am so proud to say, I'd say about twice a month, we are meeting with new community partners. We have not only increased the diversion, but our pretrial diversion is stronger than ever. We are meeting with judges, public defenders, community partners. We have actually engaged also with Keyway, Concord, and Soul Fisher Ministries. These are organizations that really specialized in reentry. And when I say reentry, to those of you who don't know, this is inmates who are in the prison system. They would help them reenter the community. We have visited, we have engaged with them. Now they have agreed with us to come back to the front of the justice system, and they now are engaged in our pretrial system. So I'm glad you brought it up so I could share this with you because I'm so proud of it. Our pretrial system is not only strong, it's stronger than ever. Because I agree with you, Mr. Bryant. We are trying to help our defendants in the beginning. So there is no need for reentry and no need for prison at all. And these community partners are incredible. We met with 3 new ones last week so they could help with housing, drug treatment, anger management, parenting classes. And when we get them involved in pretrial, and what I mean when I say that, just so I'm clear, is for those who first get charged and when they get out on bond, they can get these services right away. Because if we can avoid any kind of jail time, any kind of prison time, that is the goal for a better, safer St. Louis County, and also to help everybody to succeed. We've actually decreased the jail population by 10%. We meet with the jail every week to do that. We're involved in a tap-in system where every week we have a prosecutor or I who participates in calls from the public defender and asks if we can recall warrants. We participate in that weekly because we agree that a lot of people just need a little direction, just need a little support. And we are involved in that very much. So thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Bryant, so I would have the opportunity to share the great work that we are doing.
Do you still have well, I guess we shouldn't have a direct conversation, but the person who was running the diversion programs, I think the programs they're not a unit anymore. I think every attorney now, I don't know if there's a particular unit that you guys used to have that's now changed.
Mr. Bryant, thank you very much. I'm aware of who you've been talking to. I actually thought you were better than that, but we have a very strong diversion unit and treatment court program. Do those attorneys also have to do general felonies? Actually, they do, because I'm not sure if you're aware, our budget has been cut significantly, but we are doubling up. Our diversion and treatment court program are run by Josh Labatkin and John Morrison. It is a stronger program than ever, and they are all dedicated. And like I said earlier, we have actually increased the number of attorneys who are in those treatment courts. So thank you for asking that. It has not been dissolved in any way. It's very, very strong.
And I would remind you that we are a civil profession. Civility should rule everything. And the comment about you're better than that I don't think it was civil, but I get that. You know, this is not a fun process for anybody. I've run for political office. I understand the courage it takes. But win, lose, or draw, we're attorneys. We hold a standard.
I do want
So
to.
let's just wait a minute. Let's just reset. I have a question. I
Yes,
want to talk about wrongful convictions. Okay. So let me just ask my question, Madam Moderator. Let me give you the floor back. I'm sorry.
Before you ask your question, I just want to keep, I want to limit questions to individual experience of each individual candidate, not tying questions to the other candidate, if that makes sense. I want people to talk about themselves and what they plan to do or their personal experience. So go ahead and ask your follow-up question, but I did want to preface it with that because we didn't plan to have any sort of debate tonight.
And I did not mean to overstep my boundaries. I just feel very thank you for saying that. Okay, my question is this. I've worked in Illinois with the Illinois Innocence Project. Forgive me for not being on camera, but it's not a good hair day, guys. So that being said, I would like to hear from both of you. The causes of wrongful convictions are things like jailhouse snitches and lie detector tests and faulty science and all of those things we all know about. But for the sake of folks that don't work in that area, what are your thoughts on the main causes of why people are wrongfully convicted?
Is this directed to me?
Yes, ma'am. If you'd like to start, yes, ma'am.
Sure. I just wasn't sure if you were talking to me. Well, I think there's many reasons, and that's why Wesley Bell started the Conviction Integrity Unit, and that's why we continued it, and that's why we have a dedicated walled-off unit. I don't think there's any one reason why, but that's why we have a dedicated unit to look into those because we take it very seriously. Thank you.
I have a different experience. I think wrongful convictions come from tunnel vision. I've seen it. I've seen it as a defense attorney. I've seen cases getting driven to conviction despite the evidence because it's been charged, because the prosecutor just wants that conviction. And that's a lot of power from a prosecutor. And especially when you're talking about public defender offenders, whether they're guilty or not, or people who don't have the ability to hire such a super trial team, they often concede or they succumb to the defense that that's not robust. But that tunnel vision causes that prosecution to run over that person. And that leads to wrongful conviction, and it leads to guilty pleas where people just concede. It's important to have that balance. And yes, I've been on both sides. I care about victims, but I also care about truth and fairness in the process. So and that's what I've seen has led to wrongful convictions.
I see Mayor Jones has her hand up, and then I'm going to circle back to Gavin's question since Mr. Bryant hasn't had a chance to answer that question yet. So go ahead, Mayor Jones.
I can't get, oh, it's on. Okay, my question is to Mr. David Bryant. You mentioned Ferguson in your presentation several times. Tell me what you believe that was not completed and or undone in Ferguson in 2014.
I'm sorry, I don't understand which that was not completed.
Yeah, undone. You said a lot of things that was started in Ferguson was not completed or undone.
Oh, oh, I'm sorry. I was talking about the we were visiting the diversion programs, not diversion court, diversion programs that were set up after the catastrophes in 2014. And what we began to see is that those programs were just began being deprioritized. Initially, there, and I hadn't been talking to anyone, but initially there was a dedicated unit for those programs, and now it's more diluted, which just kind of indicates to me that it's less of a priority. That's all.
Okay, and then circling back to Gavin's question, so the idea of St. Louis County elections, and justice being nonpartisan, would you support or see value in the county prosecutor elections being nonpartisan like municipal elections?
Oh yeah, of course, of course. I think we are working for the entire community, not a particular party. So nonpartisan is yeah, I agree. Be just fine because when you're in court, victims aren't one party or another. You're working for the entire St. Louis County.
And then it looks like there's a question from Monica. What diversion programs will you do differently or in addition to what is currently in place?
I would love to bring a priority back, make them more robust. I think it's a powerful office. We can always do conviction. We can always do incarceration. I think if we're really serious about uh, reducing crime rate, we really need to take that aspect and make it a lot more serious, a lot more robust. I think the deprioritizing it and diluting it to where, yeah, certainly attorneys can the prosecutors can have that as an alternative to a solution to a case. But I think we should take it very serious because it's an important tool. That's some important leverage that the prosecutor's office has to help offenders that qualify, and that in turn gets them back out to be um, uh, law-abiding citizens with jobs. And at the end of the day, that's all we want. That's what's going to reduce crime, not focusing on conviction and incarceration. We've been doing that forever.
And then the last question I'm seeing here, I'm just gonna trim it down because like I said, I want it to be about individual experience and not, pointed at opponents. But so what makes your experience different than what's already being done?
Is that for me?
Yes, I believe that was a question for you.
Okay, gotcha. Well, my experience is comprehensive. First of all, like I said, I've been on every point of view inside of the courtroom. I've talked to juries as a prosecutor. I've talked to juries as a defense attorney. I've listened to the arguments of attorneys as a judicial officer, that's a commissioner, where I've presided over DWI hearings. And so my experience is comprehensive. I've been in jurisdictions throughout Missouri, and I'm telling you, I've seen how other communities treat the people that are offenders, and it's not. focused on truth. It's not just focused on running over and conviction and bullying them. It's really just focused on getting underneath the truth. And police are respectful because it's all about the truth when someone makes a mistake. And I understand we can all get behind how dangerous and violent offenders are. Everyone can do that, but it's still a matter of temperament. And so my experience is comprehensive. Not only that, my experience is deep when it comes to actually being in trial. And at the end of the day, that trial experience is really what translates into a safer community. I get standing on the periphery and setting policy for the office, but you also want to know that your attorneys are inside the courtroom, moving the ball, holding people accountable. Everyone can't get a deal. And there are some bad people out here that won't be held accountable unless you have the ability to go in and hold them accountable. Experience matters. I'm not just someone who's been around for a long time inside of the courtrooms. I'm someone who's taken these cases to trial and fought inside and out. And not only do I know how to try cases from a prosecutor's point of view, I can see, like I said, I can see a defense the moment it's charged. So I know exactly what that defense attorney is coming for and beat him to the punch. My experience is different.
Dr. Jackson, I see your hand.
Yes. Part of what I'm enjoying about this space is the fact that they get to educate us because we all don't do what they do every day. My question is, if we consider local, state, and federal issues, one big issue related to crime and violence is around gun laws and policies and the way that charges are contended with for people who violate any particular, gun law. And so if I'm curious to hear, considering again, this is a hot topic issue across the country. Milissa, if you can talk about how your office currently handles that particular issue across a number of different factors, and then David, if you could talk about, what you might want to do on your own accord relating to addressing, this long-standing issue that we have in our country and obviously in our city.
Thank you for that question. I think it's extremely important. And in my time in the courtroom, I've learned a lot. I have had 50 plus felony jury trials, and I currently handle a full caseload as well. So I'm also in the courtroom now. In terms of gun policy, I feel very strongly about gun cases. Right now, as we all know, if we all looked out our window right now and saw somebody carrying a rifle and called the police, there's absolutely nothing the police can do. Everybody's got a gun. Terrifies me. The policy in our office used to be that everybody gets probation on a first-time offense. We have taken a much stronger stance on gun cases. Now, any crime that is committed with a gun is taken much more seriously. For example, there's a crime called exhibiting. If somebody points a gun at you in an angry or threatening manner, if somebody shoots into a car, if someone shoots into a house, even if they don't hit anybody, those are serious felonies. If somebody has illegal drugs with a gun, that's a felony. We used to always give probation on first-time offenses. Folks, we have to understand these are our trigger pullers. We cannot sit around and wonder why we have 270 pending homicide cases if we are giving probation to our future trigger pullers. So what we're trying to do is send a message. We are not giving straight probation on gun crimes anymore. We are requiring something else. Is a first-time offender who points a gun at an innocent person going to go to prison for 25 years? Of course not. But you know what they're going to do? They're going to sit down for a minute and they're going to have that gun taken away, and they are going to learn that gun crimes are not okay. St. Louis County has too many murders. We have too much violence. So we take our gun crimes very seriously. It's not just a straight probation if you commit a felony with a gun. It is first of all, the gun's taken away. It is some sort of shock time. It is some sort of rehabilitation. It is something other than straight probation. We cannot complain about crime if we're going to just look away when there are felonies committed with guns and give probation. So that is our stronger policy on guns. I think we're also all very, very aware that a lot of our offenders in our office, we deal with 18 and over. That's adults. I think we are all also very, very aware that a lot of our offenders, they know what they're doing. So you know what they do? They get the 16 and 17-year-olds to pull the trigger. they get the 16 and 17-year-olds to rob the store because they know how to avoid the trouble. But we know what's going on, and we take it very, very seriously, just as seriously as we take diversion, treatment court, helping defendants, and helping victims. So thank you.
We can all talk about violent gun offenses, but I noticed that we didn't talk at all about the non-violent gun offenses. And those are important too. You know, we have young offenders who also, you know, that are included in that with nonviolent offenses. That's what my policy is: every person, every case, every time, because we can't have just that cookie cutter policy that just says, if there's a firearm offense, you have to go to prison. You know what? That includes someone who walks on a prohibited property with a firearm. That's a firearm offense. And this person could have no felony prior convictions at all, no criminal history, and a working citizen on the rise, and go on a prohibited property without knowing better and get arrested. And I've seen it. And get arrested. That's a firearm offense. And the current policy is no probation, prison time for a person like that. I think you really do have to be more careful. You have to look at every person, every case, every time. And that's why that's my policy, because it doesn't seem fair to not afford a person in that circumstances the full consideration of the range of punishment, the full consideration of his facts, and have a fair government assessment of him, and not just lump him into all gun offenders. They're not all the same. You know, you can't say the person who walked on a prohibited property is the same as this young person running down the street firing a gun at his enemy. Those are two completely different offenders. And you should have something that says this person gets a different type of consideration. So I don't think it's, I'm definitely running, I definitely oppose that. No doubt that we have a problem, and we will fix it. We can fix it. And it does not mean we have to be unfair to some. And so I intend to address it by one, making sure we look carefully at each individual and give that person a fair result, as opposed to just lumping them in because of what some other people has done.
All right, I want to be respectful of people's time, so I'm going to ask our last two questions that are in the chat, and then we can wrap it up. So it looks like, and I believe Mark asked this question specifically of David, but I think if both want to answer, I think that's fine. So his question essentially is: the prosecutor's office is one of the largest law offices in the state of Missouri. What business, including budgetary experience, do you have?
What business do I have?
What I think business and budgetary experience.
My job was to train trial lawyers. I've as a judge in the courtroom, my job was to control a courtroom full of lawyers. My job was to it was my court clerk, my bailiff that I had to manage. I also managed my law firm. At the public defender's office, my job was to, like I said, train groups of lawyers. In addition to my experience within the judiciary, you know, I have my own practice. I've run my own practice, and I've, you know, I've had to, you know, manage my own budget, manage the budget of my own practice, my own law firm, and so I think both of us are both ascending to that type of that level of experience. My understanding is my opponent also has had to develop that experience. So.
And I didn't know if you wanted to answer that question as well, Milissa.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we have a staff of 130, 70 attorneys plus 10 victim advocates, 10 investigators, and 30 support staff. We have a $16 million budget. 98% of our budget does go to salaries. I have 2 MBAs on my staff who deal with budget. We hire the best people to handle the various issues. I'm not somebody who comes into an office and pretends I know everything. That is why I recruit some of the veteran prosecutors. It's not because I can't train people. That's why I recruit them. That's why I have 2 MBAs who handle the budget. They both have an emphasis on accounting and funding. It's a very large budget. Budget is a huge business. It is a huge law firm with very, very special goals and very, very important about keeping St. Louis County safe. And that's why we work hard every day to continue to do it.
Okay, and then I'm gonna wrap it up with our last question. What's one policy you would change immediately that would both make our neighborhoods safer and rebuild trust with people who don't believe the system works for them? And how will you measure if it's actually working?
I'm sorry, are you talking to me or Mr. Bryant?
Either one. I'll let either one of you, whoever wants to answer it.
Okay. Thank you so much. Sorry for the confusion.
We're going to ballot order.
The policies and changes that I've made in the last year, as I've just talked about all the new teams, strengthening the teams, the homicide team, violent crime unit, also started a cold case unit, increased our diversion and reduced our treatment court. This year, as we move forward, we're going to continue to fine tune those things. I would say one of the things we are literally doing in the present moment, including all afternoon today, is increasing our community partners to work more strongly in our diversion and pretrial programs. But all of these programs are growing every single day, and we're continuing to fine tune them. You know, the things I've said, we just want to continue to keep working on these every day. And I'm going to guarantee everybody here, I won't let you down. I care about St. Louis County, and I've grown up in this office. I know what works. I know what doesn't work. And I'm going to continue to do this work every day as long as the voters allow me to. We're doing a lot of good for the victims, for the people of St. Louis County, and even being a part of the solution for the defendants. I can guarantee you that.
I think the very first thing I would want to look at is the policy of just grouping all offenders together. The cookie cutter policies is what I call it. I would make sure that every case is looked at individually. Every person is looked at individually, and the result measure that person's offense as opposed to just a prison sentence, despite whatever good he has done in his life. So first things first, every person, every case, every time. I also would want to go back and revisit the policies of not consenting to bonds. I mean, it's our laws allow for it, and it's causing gridlock and pretrial detention. We have to get back to fairness and agreeing to bonds and moving these courts forward. So I do think I would love to make sure we get back to the democratic policies that were keeping our community moving forward together. We can always be afraid and upset and really lash out at people that don't need it because of crime statistics, but we can also build this community together. We can build it together. We have the skills together. We don't have to be separated and divisive and insensitive. We can build it together. We have the trial skills. I have the trial skills. This is a trial office, and we can build this community together. And it doesn't mean one bit of being soft on crime. It just means that together we're a better community. And I hope for the opportunity to show St. Louis that that's what's going to make us stronger.
Well, thank you both so much for taking the time to come speak to our club membership this evening. It seems like it's a topic that a lot of people are passionate about, but it's super important, right? A lot of lives are touched by our, justice system. And so It's important who leads our county office on justice. So thank you all both so much for joining us and answering some questions. Does anybody have any announcements for our group?
I would just say, don't forget about the No Kings rally on Saturday, March 28th. Sydney and others from our club will get more information out about that, but make sure you save some time to do that on Saturday, the 28th.
Yes. Cheryl Rose.
Yes, I just want to say if there's anybody on this call that has not signed the Respect Missouri Voters petition and wants to, you can come to the church at the corner of Jackson and Delmar Mondays from 11 to 1 to do that, if not somewhere else. Thank you.
Awesome.
Go to the website Mobilize and find a place where they're collecting signatures,
right,
and go there.
Yes. Any other announcements? I do have one. The National Women's Political Caucus St. Louis is having its gala on April 25th. It's a Saturday. It's a brunch time gala. But the Training Institute is hosting an ad book. So if you're interested in purchasing ads, you can do that. I'm dropping a link in the chat where you can see more information about the event and the ad book if you want to do that. And then Gavin put in the chat that Matt Vitale for House District 96 is having his kickoff on, I believe it's on the 24th. So if you all are interested in that, feel free to join Matt for that. Anything else for the good of the people? All right, seeing none, thank you all so much for joining us. And we will see you next time. We meet on the third Mondays of every month. So make sure to be on the lookout for our next meeting.
Thank you.